What's up, everybody? This is Daniel Mathematics here with another example to explore. And today, I want to go over example 7 and example 8 of how to solve quadratic equations while using the quadratic formula, okay? So we're going to start off with example 7 first. So in example 7, guys, let's do this real quick. All right, so in example 7, guys, we have 4 times parentheses x minus 1 squared equals 8. So 4 times parentheses x minus 1 parentheses close to the second power minus 8, okay? So the first thing, guys, that we need to do is, guys, we need to actually factor this part out right here, and we need to move 8 to the left side with everything else so the whole quadratic equation equals 0, okay? So let's go ahead and factor, guys. So I'm gonna have 4 times, okay? Once again, it's x minus 1, but it's to the second power. So we're gonna have 2 parentheses x minus 1s, okay? So it's gonna be 4 times parentheses x minus 1 times parentheses x minus 1. Okay, just like this. X minus 1. Okay, equal 8. Okay, so it's going to equal 8. Okay, but we're going to move 8 to the left side after we finish the factoring part. Okay, so equal 8. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, guys, we're going to actually factor these two parts right here. Okay, so x times x is x squared. It's going to be x squared, or x to the second power, okay? X times negative 1 is negative x, so it's going to be minus x. Okay, on top, we're going to have negative 1 times x, which is negative x, or minus x. And then negative 1 times negative 1 is a positive 1, so it's going to be plus 1. Okay, plus 1, and we're going to have this whole thing in the parentheses because we still need to distribute by 4. Okay, meaning that we need to multiply everything inside this parentheses by 4 equals 8. Okay, so now, guys, now we already factored out. Now we actually need to distribute. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. So we're going to have 4 times x squared, okay? So 4 times x squared is 4x squared. Okay. 4 times negative x is negative 4x. Okay. 4 times negative x again, once again, is a negative 4x, so it's going to be minus 4x again. Okay, and then 4 times 1 is a positive 4, so it's going to be plus 4. Equals 8, right? Okay, now what we need to do is, guys, we need to combine like terms. I can combine this negative 4x with this negative 4x, which will equal negative 8x, right? So now I'm going to have 4x squared, or x to the second power, 4x to the second power, minus 8x, which was these two, so I can cross those out. That equals negative 8x. All right, and then what I can also do is now I can actually move this 8 over here. So in order for me to do that, I would have to subtract 8, and I would have to subtract 8 from this 4, and 4 minus 8 is a negative 4, so it'll be minus 4 equal 0. Okay, guys, so we have successfully moved everything to the left side and factor out, distributed everything that we needed to do in order to simplify our quadratic equation to this, okay? So now, guys, we have 4x squared minus 8x minus 4 equals 0. Since it's set to 0, guys, we can now use the quadratic formula, okay? And remember, guys, the quadratic formula is, in this case, we have x, so it's going to be x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of positive b to the second power, or squared, minus 4 times a times c, right? All divided by 2 times a. All divided by 2 times a. Okay? So once again, guys, this right here is the quadratic formula that we're going to be utilizing. Okay? So now we need to figure out what is the value of a, positive b, negative b, and positive c. Okay? So let's go ahead and start that. So guys, a, the value of a, remember a is always the coefficient that's attached to x squared, which is 4. Okay? B is the coefficient that's attached to x to the first power, which is negative 8. So b equals negative 8. Now, if positive b equals negative 8, then negative b will equal positive 8. Okay? And then c, guys, c is the constant, which is minus 4 or negative 4. So c will equal negative 4. Okay? So now, guys, we have successfully created our key of values that we're going to plug in into the quadratic equation, the quadratic formula, to find out the values of x that would make this quadratic equation true, okay? Because remember, guys, we want this whole equation to equal 0. So we're trying to find out the value of x, or the two values of x that would make this whole equation equal 0, okay? So let's go ahead and start the process. I'm going to start it up here. Okay, so now we plug it into the formula. Negative b is a positive 8. So it's going to be 8 plus or minus the square root of positive b is negative 8. So it's going to be the square root of negative 8 squared, or to the second power, minus 4 times a. A is a positive 4. So 4 minus 4 times 4. Times c. C is a negative 4, so times negative 4. Right? All divided by 2 times a, which is 2 times positive 4. Remember, guys, this is what x equals. Okay? All right, guys, so let's go ahead and start the process. So we can just start simplifying things and finding out the true value of things. Negative 8 squared is actually a positive 64, because negative 8 times negative 8 is a positive 64. I'm multiplying 2 negatives, so those will turn into a positive. So negative 4 times negative 4 is a positive 16, and positive 16 times positive 4 will be a positive 64. So there'll be 64 plus 64. 64 plus 64. Let me just make sure, guys. Yep. So it'll be 64 plus 64 inside. And here, guys, 2 times 4 is 8. Okay, so now, guys, we can actually start simplifying our formula and what we have. So now we have x equals 8 plus or minus the square root of 64, right, plus 64. 64 plus 64, all divided by, remember 2 times 4 equals 8, so all divided by 8. Okay, so now what we need to do, guys, we need to solve inside of the square root sign, which is 64 plus 64, which is 128. 128. So now, guys, we're going to have 8 plus or minus the square root of 128 divided by 8. Okay, so the square root of 128 is not a whole number. It's not a whole number, right? Because once again, the square root of 144 is 12. The square root of 121 is 11. So it's between 11 and 12, which lets me know that I can actually divide this into radicals, okay? I can actually divide that into radicals. So what I'm gonna do is, guys, instead of me having the square root of 128, I can divide the square root of 128 into the square root of 64 times the square root of 2, okay? So let me just show y'all what I'm doing. The square root of 64 and the square root of 2, right? Because 64 times 2 is 128. So I can split it into the square root of 64 times the square root of 2. So that's what I'm gonna do, guys, all right? So now we're gonna have 8 plus or minus the square root of 64, or radical 64, times the square root or the radical of 2, right? All divided by 8. Okay, now, this radical, which is the square root of 64, right? I can actually square root that, and the square root of 64 is 8. The square root of 64 is 8, okay? The radical 2, its square root is not a whole number, so I'm just gonna keep it as a radical. So now, guys, I'm gonna have 8 plus or minus 8 radical 2, or times radical 2, all divided by 8. Okay? So I'm almost done, guys. Now what I can do is, guys, I can simplify one more time. I can divide these two 8s by this 8 down here. So 8 divided by 8 is 1. So I can cross this out. I can put a 1 here, and I can put a 1 there. So x will equal these two particular values. 1 plus or minus, right, radical 2. Okay? Because 1 times radical 2 is just radical 2, right? So it will simplify to this final answer, guys. 1 plus or minus radical 2. 1 plus or minus radical 2. So once again, guys, this is how we solve quadratic equations, by using the quadratic formula, and also, guys, understanding how to write our answer out whenever we have radicals. Thank y'all so much, guys, for tuning in. I will talk to you next time.